It's Friendly Fire Show, episode 169 for the end of March or the close to the end of March. I don't know. I'm one of your hosts, Steve from Stevivor.
I'm Ben from Stevivor.
And Ben, look.
And that's it. Yeah. Oh, you've been, I don't know, what, flu shot?
It's a tetanus shot because I got a hockey stick to the face. I do not have a vaccine yet, but I thought it was funny.
It was pretty funny.
It's not that funny. It's
no Pfizer for you. You're getting the pleb one like me.
Oh yeah, AstraZeneca all the way.
Yeah, and we'll have that maybe next year.
Oh, definitely by September.
Okay. Anyway, that's not for us to say. We're not getting involved in the politics of vaccines because we're here to talk about video games.
Yes, and we can talk about some video games. We'll put the news to the side for the second, and we'll talk about what we've been playing. I don't know if you've been playing a lot, though, because of that house thing that you have going on.
I played nothing. What my current situation, and I dare not attempt to show you because it will fall apart, is I have a camp chair and an ironing board, and that is my desk setup because I don't have anything better right now. I should have set that up this morning. Forgot about this, and so therefore I did this in the last 2 minutes. It's a bit dodgy.
Well, if you didn't say, I wouldn't have known. So
exactly. Anyway, that's why I haven't been playing anything. I played about 10 minutes of Fallout 76, and I re-downloaded it because I will be playing it again to see what it's like now. That's it. That's all I played in the past 3 weeks.
Nice.
But you've been playing stuff.
I've been playing 76 as well, but I'm going to shut up about it because we'll talk about that later, and we'll talk about how we're going to talk about it later. I've been playing some stuff. The Outer Worlds Murder on Eridanos, which is the RPG's latest expansion, came out last week, mid-March. It's more The Outer Worlds, so if you like kind of Obsidian's Fallout New Vegas style gameplay with a very set identity of like hilarious but like very corporate centric, like everything's about the brand that you represent, it's more of that. It's a bit of a murder mystery, which is like set in a noir kind of like black and white, like really stylized aesthetic, which is really cool. And like to talk about it's to kind of ruin it because it's a murder mystery. So you're like gathering clues and trying to figure out who done it really. So the more I talk about it, probably the less I make it appealing. So
what that does sound cool from what you've said. Very tough game to feature on a podcast if we can't talk about it. So maybe we'll leave it.
Yes. Well,
it sounds cool to you. Play it.
There's a new gun. There's a new location.
One question.
What?
How do I play this on Game Pass? Do I have to buy this expansion or is it included?
You have to buy it, I think, but the game itself is free and you get a discount on the DLC. So if you really if you want to try the base game, do it. And then is it on Game Pass? No, maybe not. Shit, because it's not Microsoft. It's Obsidian with Private Division, not Microsoft.
Yeah,
Microsoft.
Outer Worlds is on Game Pass, definitely.
Okay, well, if we're wrong, sorry, but whatever. There's a cool gun. It's called the Discrepancy Amplifier, and it like helps you find clues, and it's really funny. And it has a personality, so you can talk to your gun as you're helping each other figure out who done it. It's pretty good. Have I talked about It Takes Two before? I think I have, so I'm just going to leave that. I can't remember. It's the new game from Hazelight. Joseph Fares, the guy who went on the Game Awards and swore a lot. That dude. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so it's a follow-up to A Way Out, right?
Yes, and Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, and is like that needs two players to play game. Ideally, people that know each other work better. I can't talk about like the review side of things. I'm sure I've talked about the preview already, but the review goes up probably tomorrow, and I have to probably write that. So that's cool. I'll get that done. And in the wake of the Avengers going on CurrentGen properly, I jumped back in to see how it was going. It's faster, it's more stable, loading times are better. It's weird because like the two new characters they released are Hawkeye and Hawkeye. It's like, okay. And they like play a little bit differently, but not enough. Like it's just like, do you want Bo guy or Bo girl? So like it's all right. It's I think 50% off right now if you're so inclined. And they released like a roadmap for the rest of the year, which I didn't put in the news, so we'll just talk about it now. Black Panther comes out probably by like June, July, August. If you're on PlayStation, Spider-Man comes out after that, and there's some content updates that come in between. But like the Black Panther time is the next expansion called War for Wakanda. So it's like I don't want to play it as a games as a service game, but like I like the little additions of story. So like when they introduced the girl, Hawk Girl, there's probably like I don't know 5 or 6 or 7 missions where like there's a story, and then like once you play through that, then you're like, okay, I don't have to play this anymore. I'm not going to go and do like the 50 level hives that are like just exactly the same layout layer, like level by level by level. And then the newest one with Clint Barton, Hawkeye, is like a what if kind of scenario where you're in the future and it's like a dystopian future and everything's bad and like how are you going to fix it kind of thing. So it's the story isn't too bad, but like still the game itself is a bit meh.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we said when we talked about this months ago, the first time, that if they just made this a normal single player story driven game, it would be pretty good. The game as the service is the bit which is garbage, and Spider-Man being locked behind PlayStation paywall gate. But yeah, I haven't actually played that much of it. Pretty much after we talked about it on the last podcast, whenever that was, I shelved it because I thought I'll play this old next gen, now current gen. So I suppose it is now in the backlog, and I should go back to it at some point because I do want to play it as a single player game.
100 gig update if you want it on next or current gen. So just be mindful of that.
That's every game.
And the last thing that I've been playing, air quotes, is the thing that I have in my head. If you're watching the video, it's the Xbox wireless headset, which is pretty good. If you are like an Xbox centric person, it pairs with your Xbox really easily. It also pairs with a Bluetooth device, and you can have both going at the same time.
Ooh, that's nice.
Pretty minimal. Like there's a volume control on one ear, and then there's like a game to voice chat mix just by turning the cup basically on each ear. There's just like a little bendable mic, I guess that's the way to call it, and like two buttons really. So the first button turns it on or pairs with devices. It's at the back of my ear. I can't show you. And then there's like a little mute button for the mic. The ear cups, like I have giant ears. The ear cups actually like fit me for once rather than kind of like sitting on top of my ears. So it's super comfortable. The weird thing about it is I have big ears, but not a big head, like cranium wise. Like Matt, my husband, is like what 3-4 inches smaller than like shorter than me, and he has a head that's like twice the size of my head in terms of like putting on a hat. I have the top headband set thing at like maximum to fit my head, so I'm kind of wondering if you have a larger head, if there's going to be some issue there. But for me, it works really well. So it's 150 Australian, so it's like pretty reasonably cheap. It comes with a 6-month trial that's not like it's a set 6 months, so it doesn't like start if you buy it 3 months from now. Like it's runs until September or something like that, of the Dolby Atmos like virtual surround sound stuff. But if you don't want to pay for a subscription after that, you can switch to Windows Sonic, which is almost as good. So it's a surround sound, air quotes, headset for not too much money, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Looks good.
There you go. You talk some news because I'm sick of talking, Ben. Fading quickly. I took a hockey stick to the face.
Yeah.
Feel bad for me and stuff.
Finally, there's big news. Finally, Microsoft and ZeniMax are one. The merger is complete. So when they announced it last year, I think people kind of thought, not really knowing how these things work from a legal point of view, that you announced you bought a company and that's it. You have them. Turns out there's some paperwork, there's some admin, there's some business dealings that have to go on. There's a lot of boxes that needs to be ticked. You got to cross all the T's, dot the I's. A lot goes on. It takes about 6 months. That has happened everywhere it needs to happen. ZeniMax, i.e. Bethesda, is now part of Xbox. They now have 23 game studios or developers, and pretty much nothing has changed immediately except that 20 games came onto Game Pass immediately because they're now first-party Microsoft games. I'm not going to tell you what they are. Basically, any Bethesda game which is on 360, Xbox One, I don't think they have any on Series yet, that's not just an upgraded game. There is Doom Eternal, but that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get them. You can play them all. So everything from, I think, like Morrowind, it was a 360 port from the original Xbox through to Doom Eternal. You can play with Game Pass.
Yeah. And like the list is like missing Doom 2016, but I think that's because Doom 2016 is already on Xbox Game Pass. So like if it's a Bethesda game, it's pretty much there, really. Um, and I guess the other news is there's some FPS boost stuff. So Fallout 476, Prey, The Evil Within, and one other one, which I'm not going to be able to tell you off the top of my head, got that fancy FPS boost to 60. And not that we're talking about Fallout 76, but I was playing it before the FPS boost came out, and then I turned it on, and it's like we know this by now. We've all played games in 30 frames, and we played them in 60 frames, but it's just like, oh,
it's good.
I like this, so I'm glad that kind of stuff is happening.
Yeah, I'm glad it works. What would you say, back to Bethesda for a second, to someone who hadn't played a bunch of these games? Where would you start? Which 2 or 3 would you say that's where you should jump in?
If you're an RPG person, you really, I guess, have to decide if you like more of like a dystopian wasteland or a fantasy setting, because like they're all essentially the same, and you have to decide if you want to go to Fallout or to Elder Scrolls. If you're more of a shooter, it'd be I don't know. Like if you're a shooter who likes really fast-paced stuff, I'd go towards the Doom side. If you like kind of like a well-rounded shooter, I'd probably point you over to Wolfenstein. And if you like a little bit of space thrown in, I thought Prey was really, really good, and kind of has bits and pieces from all of the franchises that I've already talked about. What do you think?
I would go Wolfenstein for me, either of them, the first one or the second one. One probably a little more forgotten is I really like the first Dishonored game. I think there's even an upgraded version on Xbox One, so I would have a look at that. I like the first one more than the second one. The Evil Within, if you're kind of keen to just kind of see where Kenji went, I think the first one of that is really cool to play, but it's not for everyone. You can kind of see it feels really dated even at the time when I played it. So I imagine it still does now. That's what they were going for. But it's just an interesting thing to kind of see even that Japanese first-party developer now on Xbox. I think that's their only Japanese studio.
Yeah,
Tango Softworks. So,
and that's a very fitting recommendation on the day of recording, Resident Evil's 25th anniversary, Ben. So,
well, there you go.
Well done.
And I think that's about it. From it's not lesser known, but we're not talking your Skyrim level game. There's a few more on there that you may not be aware of.
Yeah, and something that we didn't cover, I guess, on the site, but like they had a hour and a half or so roundtable discussion once everything was confirmed by like the US Securities Board and the EU, I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, all those people.
Acquisition Approvals Board.
The lawyers.
And I guess the biggest news was Todd Howard was like, yeah, we really stuffed up Fallout 76, but like, again, we'll leave that for later. But Spencer was like, if we have contractual obligations for games, yes, they're going to keep going. And like straight off the top of my head, he's talking about things like Death Proof and Ghostwire Tokyo. But like probably also talking about DLC for Fallout 76 and like what else is multi-platform that they're still supporting. Doom Eternal, perhaps. Like that stuff will stay how it is. But I think from what he was saying, and I don't have a quote anywhere, but like the general gist is like they'll be better on Xbox. You might see them on somewhere else, but like they're probably just going to be an Xbox exclusive wherever we support Game Pass. So like that leaves it open for like smart TV apps or for like a Switch app or something. And apart from like things that they've already signed, like who knows, maybe the Elder Scrolls 6, they've already signed something with Sony saying, yes, like we'll give you special content or do this, like who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to start seeing a lot of games just like locked to Xbox, but like, cause that's what, like, why would you spend $7 billion if that wasn't going to be your strategy? And they couldn't legally talk about it until now. Sorry.
Exactly. He said somewhere that the reason they were so cagey, just kind of saying, no, we don't know, it's game by game case, is because they weren't allowed to say anything else. They weren't even, I'm not even sure they were allowed to say that. That was just kind of what they were diffusing things with.
It's not even what they could say. It's they weren't allowed to legally like strategize how they would be a single entity or like an acquired, like in the same umbrella, because they couldn't do any of that stuff until the acquisition had happened. So they're probably still in talks with Sony about like, oh, we're like, no, we were going to give you that, but now we haven't signed anything. Too bad. We're taking that back. Or yes, we'll have to. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I think it's much clearer now. I'll be very surprised if the next Elder Scrolls, when it comes out in 7 years, and Starfield are on a non-Game Pass platform.
And even things like Deathproof, like I think Deathproof and Ghostwire Tokyo are a year exclusive. And I think when that year ends, it'll go on Game Pass. It'll go on Game Pass with like a special fancy schmancy edition with like extra content and like stuff that makes it enticing to get it on that other platform. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. What's next?
That's it for Bethesda.
I don't think this is a huge story, but you can say if you have thoughts about it. Epic has continued its kind of like litigious campaign. They've already filed like an anti-competitive claim against Apple in Australia, but in the last couple of weeks, they filed the same thing against Google. And this kind of all stems from Epic in Fortnite on iOS and Android, giving players the option to kind of circumvent the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store to buy in-game purchases like direct through Epic. And then both Apple and Google had a fit and took the game off their platforms. And then Apple tried to like kill Epic and like remove their license from like the entire App Store. And then that was deemed inappropriate, like blah, 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 blah. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Not really. That's very, I mean, more Apple than Google really lock their store, and they want to make sure they do it from the point of view of they make a lot of money that way, but also they frame it as we're protecting you. We're not letting you just get these random stores stealing your money and your details. Google's kind of left it to a degree, but there's a lot of stuff on Android where they kind of say this can't be in the store. Like all the gambling apps aren't in there. Epic's just trying to do that same thing. And, Fortnite is gambling in a way in how the loot boxes work. That's been ruled before. Similar thing.
Yeah, they've changed that though. So now they're not loot boxes, but yeah. And like the weird thing about it makes the lawsuits make complete sense with Apple, because it's like you won't let people put this on their phone unless it goes to the App Store. Whereas Google lets you sideload, though it's a security concern, and like you don't know what you're technically sideloading if you're not very careful. And they have like multiple stores. But the thing that I don't know is like it should be focused on more, especially with Google, is that like if you want people to buy things, you have to do it through the Google Play Store. So like Google gets a cut. Yeah. So like it's like do you support this mega corporation, or do you support the other mega corporation? Because neither of these, or like none of the entities involved, are strapped for cash. Like who cares? Almost to some extent.
Yeah, it's a free to play game. Don't pay anything. That's my solution. We've solved that problem.
Nice. Take it away, Ben.
Jade Redmond has a new studio working on PlayStation title. That's basically all we know.
Yes, it's called Haven. That's the thing we know.
Oh, we know the studio or the game?
The studio.
Yeah. I'm going to say, do we know the game name? I didn't think so. So Jade Redmond has been around for ages. So was she on Beyond Good and Evil? Is that what she started, or am I mixing up with someone else?
Maybe, but I know that at Ubisoft, she was a co-creator of the Assassin's Creed franchise. That's probably her biggest contribution to Ubisoft.
Certainly much more mainstream than Beyond Good and Evil, but I don't know why I went there first. And then she went to EA, right?
Yeah, then she went to EA Motive and was doing a Star Wars thing that didn't take. And then she went to Google Stadia to do an entire thing that she was head of a studio that didn't take. And now she's doing, it's like an independent studio, but they're getting funding from PlayStation for a new IP for PlayStation. And that's about all we know.
Sounds right. That's how No Man's Sky started. But anyway, I'm sure it'll be positive.
Hopefully this one makes it and actually something happens from it. And like the post that she wrote, Jade Raymond, that is, was kind of like, I've been basically like punched in the stomach about 50 times right now. And people ask, like, do you want to keep doing it? And sure, I do. And I'm like, well, you're more resilient than I would be, because, geez, man, you've had some rough luck of late. So good on you for not wanting to just pack it in.
Well, I'm sure the checks really help, but yes, I suppose. Yeah, that's what we've got now. We don't have any details, so let's hope we get another. Sony normally pretty good at spotting these little kind of indie studios that are going to make them something that's going to make them a lot of money and get good review scores. So they're probably on it again this time.
And in the same vein, stuff that we kind of know but don't know a lot about, PlayStation VR 2, I guess, as it may be called, the next PlayStation VR, the PlayStation VR for PS5. Um, Sony announced that they're ditching the Move controllers, finally, controllers that came out before PSVR entirely were really kind of old and almost outdated for VR itself when they were paired with it.
Well, they came out with the PS3 to compete with the Wii. Somehow that controller, like Sony, they basically don't want you to move generations easily. They've made that so complicated, but they saved the Move controller across 3 generations. What the hell? Anyhow, they're finally replacing it with something that looks like the Sony Ericsson logo I saw someone post. It looks exactly like it.
Oh, yeah. They're like I don't know which Oculus they are. They're like Oculus Touch, I think. Is that what it is? Okay. Like an orb that surrounds your hand, and you're kind of like, it's like you've got your thumbs up. You're going to play like a thumb war with yourself, but you have your hands apart. If you're watching the video, it makes perfect sense what I'm saying. If you're not, you're probably thinking, what the hell is he talking about? With like all the dual sense stuff, like haptic feedback, and what's all the other stuff? Something triggers, some adaptive triggers or something.
Yeah, all the bells, lots of stuff.
All the whistles, which is good. Like at least it's not trying to, like repurpose old stuff. Like if it wants to be next gen or current gen, like future VR, this is a good step. And I hope that the second step, of course, is like a wireless headset arrangement. So you're not just like tethered to your console with all these cables that you can't see, but you're encouraged to stand up and swing your arms and turn and dash and
it's very first attempt. It does at least show that they're still supporting VR. It's kind of fallen away. I know most people. I didn't get one. You have one, I think.
I don't use it because it's just
exactly. That's my point. People played it for the first few months. New stuff comes out with like, oh, here's Hitman and it has VR support. If you're really into Hitman, maybe you dig it out and try it, but you'd have to be really into it. So it's kind of fallen away. I think they need to, if they're going to commit to it, they need to do this. They need to show here's a new better version, here's a better version, and we're going to at least commit to it for another generation. So yeah, it's a positive step if you're into VR.
Yeah. Which anyway, Life is Strange Before the Storm. Do you know much about it?
I know about the original Before the Storm.
Oh, True Colors is what the new one's called. Yeah. Sorry. Well, tell me about Before the Storm then, Ben. Smart ass. Go ahead.
Well, there's no need. That was a prequel to the original Life is Strange that was released. There's been a lot of Life is Strange games. So there was the first one came out, episodic 5 episodes. Then Before the Storm was like another 3 or something that was set beforehand. And then we had Captain Spirit, which was a demo technically, but it was kind of set the scene for Life is Strange 2.
And it's the best one.
Now we have True Colors, which I don't know anything about. I assume that is, based on your typo here, similar to Before the Storm. Another spin-off.
Yes. So Don't Nod's the French studio that did like Remember Me, which was like super underrated. I really liked it. But they've done Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2 and Captain Spirit, I suppose. Life is Strange Before the Storm is by Deck 9 Games. So like under supervision by Don't Nod. So it's kind of like a different studio doing its own thing. I haven't finished Before the Storm, to be honest, because I didn't like Chloe. Is that the friend
Chloe
of the
or Max?
protagonist? Yeah. I didn't mind Max. Chloe was like, I'm a rebel. I'm like, I don't have any, and I don't have ties to I don't care about you. Anyway, this is by Deck 9 again. So it's kind of like, they didn't give me a direct answer. I tried to ask Square Enix, like, Don't Nod's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And it seems like Deck 9's going to do like the little side stories. But one of the characters in Before the Storm, called FFINO. I'm going to stall and click on the link and then try to figure out the name. Who was in the first one. She's going to be in True Colors, and she's going to be one of the 2 love interests that you can have. You play as a new character called Alex, who goes to a small town to catch up with her brother. Her brother ends up dying in some mysterious way, and you have your own kind of special set of Life is Strange powers. In this case, extreme empathy, to try to figure out what's happened to your brother, and doing so like feeling the feelings and manipulating the feelings and just amplifying, I guess, the feelings of those people around you to do so.
Okay.
The friend is Steph, who appeared in Before the Storm, is now in True Colors. So it's kind of like a sequel, I guess, of sorts, because there's that little narrative connector. And what was the other thing that was? Oh, the important things. This is chapter based, but it's going to come out like Tell Me Why almost in like one entire. Well, I guess Tell Me Why didn't either because it was sort of interrupted week to week. This is one game in chapters, but you get it all in one hit. And it's literally just one game. But if you want to break it up into chapters, you still can. And there was one more thing. Oh, there's like this weird thing of musician MXM tune. Ben, now I sound like a 50-year-old. This happen a new YouTube phenomenon is going to be the singing voice of the main character, and I don't know who that person is, but apparently that is newsworthy. So
okay. Is it going to launch on Game Pass? Because Square Enix and Xbox got a thing going on. They got Outriders launching.
Oh yeah. Nothing confirmed, but who knows?
Probably not. But there's something going on there.
Yeah. Well, I think Outriders, they realized that maybe from the demo, maybe take up of the demo and reaction to the demo by those who took it up, that it's one of those Avengers-like failures that Square Enix is very familiar with. So who knows?
Catch it in while they can, yeah.
This one comes out on the 10th of September, and around the same time, if not the same day, we're also going to get our Life is Strange remastered bundle, which will have the first Life is Strange and Before the Storm remastered on current gen consoles. So ta-da.
You could play that through backwards compatibility, but never mind.
You get extra achievements if you're so inclined to play.
I will play it again because I played it on 360 and 1 to get the double achievements, and on PS4 maybe.
Adding some trophies in. Ben, well done.
Yeah,
well done.
I got some trophies. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a week or a fortnight or however long we've done this last without this week in games delayed watch. That's a great segment that I've just come up with. This time around, it's Gotham Knights, that Batman franchise game by Warner Brothers Montreal, which isn't the sequel to the Arkham games because that's Rocksteady with the Suicide Squad game, but it's set in a Batman multiverse where Batman is dead and you are the Bat family, Nightwing, Robin, Red Hood, and Batgirl against the Court of Owls, technically. So that I was really excited for it. I still am, obviously. It's kind of like a co-op RPG thing where you can play it solo. Hopefully it's not games as a service-y to the extent that we've been talking today, but that's now coming out in 2022 sometime.
Will it be presented in 4x3 or is this going to be...
Do you want to talk about that? Because you've seen it too. Do you want to talk about it? Can we have a little segue?
We can. I put it on while I was doing other stuff because it's a 4-hour movie. Like I don't have 4 hours. So I did watch it though in the background.
Watched it in like 6 installments to finally finish it. And it got better near the end, if I'm being honest. Otherwise, so it's like a 4-hour movie. We're talking about Justice League, the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, or however they've titled it. The first half is garbage. It's just like the same movie, but like in slow-mo and just longer. But then like the ending is much better to me. So I was like dunking on it pretty hard. And then when I finished it in like the last couple hours, I actually have a pretty unexpected newfound appreciation for it, if I'm being honest.
Was it worth the 90 mil or whatever they spent? Because I never watched the original version because everyone said it was terrible. So
it's pretty bad. So Zack Snyder started it. His daughter had something, I think, I'm not sure. This is really bad. I should know. I think his daughter committed suicide. Something horrible happened to the Snyder family. I think that's what it was. If it's not, I'm really, really sorry. And he stopped working on it. And then Joss Whedon of Joss Whedon controversy fame right now, not Buffy, finished it. And I've seen both, and I generally liked Joss Whedon's stuff, but oh my god, like it's especially at the end, it's like night and day. Joss Whedon was just like throwing in jokes, and I won't be too spoilery, but like the end sequence when they go to like the Russian place and like the big battle happens, like Joss Whedon just like randomly inserted this like family of four who, even though like everybody else had left like 30 years ago because like it was a place where a nuclear bomb went off, they're just like, oh, we're just gonna live here and somehow not be like Fallout mutants. And like randomly in the middle of the giant battle to save the world, like he'd cut to this family who were just kind of like, like it's just, there's weird things that he did. He had a lot of weird humor around Batman, where like Batman was supposed to be the comedic relief. It's like, well, he's Batman. That shouldn't happen. So on the whole, it's actually a lot better. It's setting itself up for a sequel, which we're never gonna get. And it seems like most of the actors in this, well, not most of the actors, like Affleck's out, Superman, I don't know if he's coming back. It's like everything's moved on. So like it's like this weird experiment, which is kind of cool, but also
experiment. I've done it again. When the first time doesn't work, try it again with a similar formula.
It's better. It's better, but it's also 4 hours. So like, is it better? I don't know. Like,
and the only way to watch it in Australia if you don't have Foxtel is Binge, which has a disclaimer at the start letting you know that it's in 4:3, so your TV is not broken. But Binge's quality is terrible. Like, they don't have 4K. I'm not even sure that they've got 1080. Like, it's in maybe 720 it's streamed in. Comical.
I was watching it on the TV and it wasn't too bad, but then like I got home last night about, I don't know, like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I was like, I hadn't eaten. I was just feeling really weird, so I like had some food, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna stay up and eat something, I poured myself like a whiskey, and like, I'm just gonna
4 hours.
I'm gonna stay up for a bit. Oh, I probably only watched like a half an hour last night, but I did it on my laptop, and it just like it looked like it was about 420 pixel, and like I thought like, oh, I'll give it a second, it'll like pop into good. It just looked like garbage. So I'm like, I'm not watching this like this, and I couldn't be bothered. And I turned on my Xbox because I had these already paired, these headphones. I'm like, oh, I'll watch it on the Xbox. I'm like, oh, there's no binge app, so like, never mind.
No, it's so hard to use binge, but anyhow,
yeah,
we'll move along.
It's on Apple TV. That's how I was watching it before.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe Apple. I don't know. I have no idea. You are a refused classification guru. I think we always went to you for this kind of stuff. So Disco Elysium is the latest to get the chop by the Australian Classification Board. Refused classification, like 99% most likely over its usage of drug dependency and alcohol dependency, and kind of like tying those into benefits in game. What say you, Ben?
I've just glanced at the statement now. That'll be exactly what it is. So basically, despite having an R18 rating for the past 7 years, anything which has, so that pretty much allows us to have violence to the degree that we want, as long as it's not too morbid. But that's how you can have your GTAs and your stuff like that. But as soon as it comes to drug use, interactive drug use, apparently adults are not allowed to make that decision themselves. So we've had games like Fallout in the past have trouble with this, and all they do is they just rename the drugs. Now it's fantasy and normally get around it that way. But even then, sometimes it's unclear. So they'll probably just change the names of any drugs, or they'll just change quite how they work in the Australian build, and it will get released and it will be fine.
Yeah, like it's Fallout and stuff. Is it Med-X that they changed it to, or I don't know. There's like it was morphine or something that you weren't allowed to take, so they changed it. But it's more like, because Disco Elysium, like it's like a skill check almost. Like take this booze, take these pills, and like you'll do better speaking to people. So like you're getting a reward. So I don't know how that works actually. Like if changing the drug name is going to be enough, or if it's like a little like a bridge too far with how the current framework is set.
They might have to change the wording around it and just make it not seem so rewardy. So as much as how the classification board is set up is not ideal, it's the framework they have to work with. So before the spotlight got put in them, there was this small group of people who were just from a small background, all very similar, all roughly in their 40s, from either lawyers or journalism or something like that. And none of them knew anything about games. They've kind of addressed that. They've got a more diverse group of people, but they still have to follow the same framework. So if the framework won't allow them to do it, there's nothing they can do. And one thing a lot of people don't understand is the publisher shows this to them. So like we've spoken to people like at studios like Rockstar, and they would explain how, they walk through the classification board. They have the time and the money to know how to get through and get the rating they want. Smaller studios, like in this situation, often don't. They just submit as is, and that can cause problems too, which when they go to speak to them and they explain, they show how it works and they show how it could be adjusted, that can often get probably an R18 rating in this case.
Yeah, and I think in the case of things like the Medium, there's also like a new kind of online like semi-automated tool that developers can use, and like if they don't go through the right hoops and balances with that, it kind of like you can have a potential to fail there. So I think that was pretty much the case of what happened to the Medium. It was refused classification, then kind of just like was fixed. I don't think with any actual amendments on the developer's part. I think this one's it, like obviously there's the potential for that to be the case, but I don't think, given because like Disco Elysium's already out, this is the final cut. I think we know what's doing it, and it's not just like a little clerical error. It's supposed to come out the end of the month on PlayStation and PS, and then will come out later for Xbox and Switch. I guess the happy ending, I don't know. The silver lining on the cloud with this one, Ben, is that none of the ACB stuff applies to Steam games. So these Disco Elysium's already out on Steam.
The loophole.
Because it's only digital. So it's out already on Steam and will be upgraded to the final cut. So you can buy either the old one and get the new one when it comes out, or you can just straight up buy the new one on Steam, and you don't have to worry if you're like desperate to play this game. Otherwise, I'm imagining something will happen and it'll get fixed, but who knows?
It'll be fine. But there's always a loophole, which shows how ridiculous the situation is. But never mind. It's pretty rare these days.
That's it, I think. Anything you want to talk about? Did you watch The Falcon and Winter Soldier?
No, I did not.
Never mind then.
No, I think that's it. That's it for this episode. We did make it back almost within 2 weeks, so I'm going to give us a pass mark. I'm going to say we'll be back again in 2 weeks. We'll hopefully have a third host with us. I'm not going to say who, because it could be one of several people. Might happen. We used to have a pretty big cast that we rotated through, 5 people. We've got a few others. Maybe we can call on some of them. We'll see if they come. At the very least, I hope to have played something. So in the next 2 weeks, I can talk about a game. But yeah, we'll find out. Anyway, how do we find you on the internet?
I am S Wright AU on things, and you can go to Stevivor, obviously. How do we find you, Ben?
Ben_Salter is me on Twitter, and I haven't been yelled at for a while about Call of Duty's something pack that you need to install. I tweeted about this like 6 months ago, and I keep, for a while, getting daily replies of people being like, I've downloaded it, it doesn't work. Yeah, well, I'm not Activision support. I was just alerting you to the fact that you need this pack or you can't play. I've forgotten about this. This was ages ago. Stop replying to me about that.
Never help anyone. That's the lesson to this story.
Anything else, I'm happy to talk about.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm looking forward to doing that with you soon. In the meantime, get your house in gear. Like, what the hell, camping chair and just disgraceful.
That's my current chair. Not ideal.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna go and continue self-medicating my weird hurting face with some beer. Maybe I'll have some dinner just to balance it out. To be
all right. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's responsible. All right, we'll see you then.
All right, bye.